The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 160 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Tuesday, June 30th, 2020. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, I told you before we recorded that I thought I had the iPad figured out and had it to where it was not, there was no delay when I pushed the button, but I just found out that that's not the case. So
there was a minimal delay, I noticed.
I don't know what the deal is. I know there's a setting that I changed before, and I don't remember what the setting was, and I can't find it in the app. So
that's fantastic.
I actually paid decent money for iPad apps. You don't usually spend a whole lot, but it was probably like a $20 app that I spent on this thing. Of course, I've used it for the entire run of 160 episodes of the podcast and also some other stuff. So I've definitely got my money's worth out of it.
You have to be having some words with Apple on this one.
Well, it's not Apple because Apple didn't make it. It's iJingle Pro is the name of the app. And it's awesome because it gives me a nice little board here and I can just hit the button and play the sound. But
I got beat.
There's a delay on it. And it's really bugging me because, when you want to hit the stingers,
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, see, that's what happens. I go to hit it, and you talk because
right
there's no
it.
sound.
See?
Yeah,
whatever. We are editing on the fly tonight. This is how it happens.
Right. We only have 2 races to talk about, and a news item that's not really news that's probably going to get us all riled up. So no sense in rushing into the show or anything.
No need, man. No need.
That's why we're recording a day early, because we figure if we go 24 hours on this one, we can stretch it right out.
Oh, and we always cursed ourselves too when I say, Eric, it looks like we might have a short podcast. And then we find a way to just drag it out.
The only time we've ever had a short podcast was the one podcast I did without you, and it was just me. And I scripted everything to try and stretch it out as much as possible, and it still was short as crap. Because
that might have been the best episode we've ever had.
Probably, because I didn't have anything to say. I just let all the drivers talk. So
yeah, well, here we are, 160 in.
So, James, we got our first look at a NASCAR Cup Series doubleheader this weekend at Pocono Raceway.
Sure did.
Pocono Organics 325 and the Pocono 350. Let's talk about them race by race, I guess, to start out with. Saturday, we had rain. I can't remember. Did the start of the race get delayed too or not on Saturday?
Yeah, a little bit. I checked in and
yeah, because weren't they in like a lightning delay or something? And
and they had to move the trucks.
Yeah, I know the truck race got moved in the morning.
So, yeah, there was a slight delay, but it wasn't I can't remember exactly how long it was, but it wasn't noticeable.
I mean, it was a cup race, so we know we dealt with rain.
Of course, and Todd was there. Our buddy Todd. So every time he goes to the track, we give him a hard time about rain, and it's becoming a thing now. So, it was. That was a good race. I mean, I'm trying to. It's hard to do these double headers, I feel like, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but I feel like all of Pocono became a blur at some point because it was a lot of racing, dude.
I think, especially on, I don't know if you watched every lap on Sunday, but I watched pretty much every lap on Sunday.
I watched the majority of the Cup races. I'd say probably 80% of both races.
I did not.
Between popping in and out for a couple of things, but I was watching a lot.
I watched most of the Cup live both days, but the Xfinity and trucks I watched delayed, and I didn't watch the ARCA race. I skipped through the ARCA race because I had advanced knowledge that it wasn't probably worth tuning in lap by lap on. So,
advanced knowledge. I love that.
Yeah, advanced knowledge. I'm having trouble remembering a whole lot. I don't think Saturday's race was that eventful. Until we came down to the end, which we had Harvick running up front and Denny Hamlin trying to track him down at the finish. I think we learned something here in this race, and that is that the drivers are going to, whether it shows on the track or not, they are going to take it easier on day one of a 2-day weekend. I felt like the racing was less intense on Saturday than it was on Sunday, and maybe that's because Saturday people were still figuring out setups and stuff, and so it wasn't like they'd run a race with practice. Or for practice, maybe it was lack of rubber on the track. Who knows what it was, but Saturday definitely seemed milder than Sunday. But I will say, I know you and I said, James, I think we said after Saturday's race that this is the sweet spot as far as length at Pocono, don't you think?
Yeah, this is where they need to be. I mean, I liked the 400-mile races, but there was some serious strategy going on, but with both, more so in the second race. But yeah, I really liked that part of it. The fields got stretched out in crazy, crazy lengths, but there was some good strategy involved, and then the finishes were pretty good. Trying to compare both races, but you had, Hamlin trying to track down Harvick in the first one, and then the vice versa in the second one. So it wasn't blowouts by any means. So
no, I think it just there was enough length that there was fuel strategy coming into play, different pit strategy. I don't know. I think the format for this worked perfectly for Pocono.
Yeah, and you can see the crew chiefs trying to. They were road coursing it a little bit. They're racing from the end to the beginning.
Well, some of them were and some of them weren't. I think that was what was interesting, is there was a mix.
That. Yeah, I like that. I really did. And I mean, heck, you got some of the best crew chiefs in the business. Their guys are, who you're seeing on near the top of the boards. But that was a nice mix right in there. We've said on the podcast, Eric, we like the 300-ish mile races for the weekdays, but I think for a track like Pocono, and even maybe the Brickyard, it's a pretty good distance for the Cup Series. Right around there.
Every race, 300 miles.
300 miles is a nice spot. It's a nice sweet spot, especially on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm busier on Saturdays than I am on Sundays. But I mean, our whole world never stops anyway.
Right.
So.
I mean, seriously though, if you're going to get 2 races in a weekend, you cut them down to 300 miles. I mean, and we were even more than that. I mean, we really
There's plenty of good racing. I mean, you didn't miss anything.
Right. I mean, total there was only 125 less miles at Pocono this year. There was 75 miles.
75 less miles.
Miles at Pocono than normal, and we did it in 2 days instead of stretching it out over 2 months. So you really didn't lose that much. But when you've got 2 days worth of racing like that, I think you get
your fill.
Yeah,
you get your fill.
Well, not to mention, I mean, the way you combat this, and I've said this since I've been calling for them to shorten races. The way you combat the fact that, okay, the Cup Series, it's only a 300-mile race now. So, yes, you're losing out. You're not watching them for 500 miles. But then you stick the 200 or the 150 to 200-mile Xfinity race or the truck race before it, and now you've got your same race length. You've just got 2 different races going.
Yeah.
And that gives you your fill as a fan.
Or on the case of Sunday, you get, what was it, 700
Holy
miles
crap,
plus
man.
Racing. That was a long day Sunday.
That was a really long day. But it was some good racing. I mean, both.
Yeah, it was really good racing.
The truck race and the Xfinity race were excellent. Plenty of excitement there. Talk about freaking, I mean, we're all over the place right now, but Brandon Jones goes from winning the Truck Series race to wrecking on a lap 1 of the Xfinity race.
Yeah, that was great.
Talk about your highs and lows.
Yeah. Harrison Burton took a big hit.
Yeah.
On Sunday. Yeah, I think.
We joked about too before during the race that the best, you want to make the racing good, just oil the track down.
Yeah, just put some Crisco out there and let them slick it up. Yeah, exactly.
That worked for the Xfinity race.
Yeah, and I think we have the show notes structured as race 1 and race 2, but this really was a blended weekend.
Yeah, you kind of have to talk about them both because there is some overlap between them. I thought one interesting thing was that unlike the Darlington and Charlotte weeks where we saw 2 really different races, and maybe it's because one of those was full length, one of them was shorter, versus this one where they were both similar length. But we're also running the same cars in both these races where you didn't there. Right. I thought that drivers that performed well in one race were also strong performers in the second race versus that setup where you kind of had 2 different races and you really couldn't draw a lot from one race to the other.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Obviously, I mean, Harvick and Hamlin were the guys to beat at Pocono this weekend, and they proved it to be in both races.
Right. It's like having a fast car on a normal weekend where you win both practice sessions and, you've got guys at the top of the board and then you go into Sunday and, yep, they're back. They're right there again.
Yeah. The one really interesting story that came out of this weekend, they talked about it a lot on Fox, and I know there was other discussion in other media as well, is the Kyle Busch situation. So
yeah,
Kyle has kind of openly said that he's struggling without practice because And from what people have said about it is Kyle is one of those guys that goes out and he works every single lap of practice. He is learning that entire time. And because he's not getting those practice laps, he's coming in behind some of these guys because he isn't as prepared for these races. And we saw that on Sunday, where he definitely ran better Sunday until he got taken out. But I mean, it's interesting to see that, we talk about how great of a driver Kyle is. I don't think you can take anything away from him that he makes himself a great driver by paying attention during practice, right? I mean,
well, I think
it's not like he doesn't have the talent. He just has to work to it.
Well, and I think part of being a great athlete too is being able to adapt, right? I mean, this is a completely different situation for all of these guys, and Kyle's given the same opportunity as everybody else. He just has to figure out a different way to approach it. And Kyle's somebody who's always liked seat time.
Yep.
And you're just not going to get it. You're not going to get the seat time, running different series even or whatever. It's just not going to happen. So you got to figure out another way, whether the car needs to be prepared better, or maybe Kyle needs to put in more time during the week,
right?
Working with the team. There's got to be a different way for him to adapt. And if he's struggling, if he's trying, and I don't know this for a fact, but if Kyle's approaching each week the same as he normally would, that might be an Achilles heel for him right now. Right. Maybe he's got to find a different way to be the same Kyle Busch, right?
Yeah, I'd really like to see us get back to like an hour practice before these, and even if it's just like IndyCar does their little shakedown before the race, something like that. Give these guys an hour to go out. Yeah, I mean, just run an hour before the race, or even a half hour, just something to get some hot laps on the car. Check your,
shake it down a little bit.
Shake it down. Make sure, because we've seen people have issues that wouldn't have had those issues if it would have been a normal race weekend because stuff wasn't done correctly or whatever.
Right.
We've seen ride height issues, stuff like that would be nice just to get rid of it. And I don't think NASCAR is looking to stick to this permanently by any means. Once they get fans back at the track, I would assume they're going to want to go back to more practice because that's one of the things that.
That's more gate.
Yeah, it makes the weekend more valuable to the fan to see cars on the track. You don't just go for the race. I mean, some people do, but a lot of people don't.
I would say by the time we get near the playoff format, if we're even allowed to race by that point, who knows? Right? That they will have something in place so that these teams are more prepared. I guess prepared is the right word there, but because there's so much value on those playoff races, I feel like there's going to have to be something in place, but we'll see.
Looking at race 1, trying to see if there's anything that really jumps out.
Well, the thing for me that jumped out was the Tyler Reddick just completely wiping out Eric Jones.
Yeah.
That kind of was Tyler Reddick's like, oh yeah, he's a rookie moment. Yeah. We haven't seen that from him quite yet. He's been on a hot streak, but he took Eric Jones out. Poor guy, poor Eric Jones.
Yeah, that was rough. Joey Logano finishes 36th.
Yeah, he had a tire issue late. He was pretty good throughout the day. He got burned by that tire, and that definitely ruined his day and wrecked his car up pretty good too. He ripped it all up. So
a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Alex Bowman as a championship favorite. He finished 27th.
Yeah, the Chevys in race 1 in particular, the Chevys were bad.
Bowman hasn't done anything since we left Darlington.
No, Bowman hasn't done anything, and Matt Kenseth was the highest finishing Chevy in 11th. I mean, that's not good. And there was only one more Chevy in the top 15. That's William Byron. I mean, it was a rough day for Chevy.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if there's anything else really that jumps out at me on this one.
Eric Almirola, we should mention, was really freaking good, man. He was wow.
Well, he was good both days too. I mean, he finished.
Yeah, he was fast.
He finishes 3rd and 5th. I mean, that's a great weekend.
Yeah, a buddy of mine was asking for some. We were talking a little bit of betting for race 2, and he was asking me who I'd take, and he was giving me some of the odds numbers, and I was like, ooh, Almirola, you got good numbers, good odds for Almirola. I'm like, man, he led 61 laps. I would have taken him at the price that he got, and he wasn't as good on day 2, but I mean, still, he had a great weekend, banged out a couple of top 5s. He's on a nice little run too since Homestead. I mean, 4 straight top 5s for him. Those are his only 4 top 5s of the season too. So Almirola is really running good.
Yeah. One of the things really interesting to me was I was reading an article yesterday, I think it was, or maybe today. I don't remember. Everything blends together during coronavirus, but and it mentioned 11 races left in the regular season, and I'm like, holy crap! Like,
yeah, dude.
We were 4 races in for the longest time, and we've just clicked off a ton of races.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
We're getting there. We're getting down to it. This is when it matters now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's tightening up here pretty quick.
So race number 2, Denny Hamlin gets the win. Pretty much a reverse of the day before. Harvick trying to track him down at the end, and Hamlin.
I thought Harvick was, or not even just Harvick, Keselowski. I mean, he was coming towards the end too. That was interesting. That was interesting late, but Hamlin had him covered.
Yeah. So, okay, is this Denny's year finally?
I don't know, man. He's. It seems like it's playing out in his favor.
I mean, Jeff Gluck had a great. I think it was Jeff on The Athletic had an article about. Mentioned Denny and talk. I mean, he's clicking wins off now. He's getting up there on the level, of most wins, and he's passing guys that are in the Hall of Fame. He's passing guys that have championships.
Yeah.
He's got to get one, right?
Yeah, he's always been sneaky underrated. Yeah, this was a big topic for us last year, talking about Denny, and this was the year he needed to get one.
Well, if it wasn't for that piece of tape last year, he had it.
Probably did. Yeah, they definitely kind of blew that one last year. And actually, I threw it into the notes, but Chris Grabehart has been. I mean, that race he called.
Yeah.
I mean, he went toe to toe with Rodney Childers and smoked him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as far as strategy goes, that's no small feat. Rodney Childers is one of the best in the business.
Yep.
So I mean, putting Denny in position, I feel like that's been a theme for them this year so far. I mean, he's just been. I mean, you show up to the track. I mean, we're going to talk about Indianapolis at some point at the end of this podcast, and I mean, Denny Hamlin's going to come up because he's been phenomenal this year. Really great.
Yeah, this feels like a Denny Hamlin season. Even we had the coronavirus thing. We came back with iRacing. Denny wins the first race there. He kind of shoulders the iRacing thing throughout.
Yep.
Comes back and is able to get the win at Darlington as well. And just, I mean, this is it. I mean, and I think the stat was he's won more races than any of the other top guys.
Yeah.
Over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
A year and a half.
He's at 10 right now over the last 2 years. He had his first winless season since his part-time season in 2005. So in 2018 he went winless.
And we all talked about how he was washed up and losing the ride.
Possibly, yeah.
And here he is.
Yeah. We were still talking about Chris Bell back then.
Yep.
But now he's in his, he's at his prime. He's in that David Smith zone, the age 39 season right now. Yeah. He'll be 40 in November. So this is the peak of his powers. He's never been better. I mean, last year he was great. And this year his numbers are even spiking even higher. It's just been he doesn't lead. Denny's never been a guy who's gobbled up laps led, but he always finds himself in the right spots. So yeah, I think this is the year. If he's going to get it done, he's got to do it within this peak right now. He's on.
Yeah, if you take 2 years where you're the favorite and don't get it done, then
how crazy is it that we went from? I mean, we gushed over Kyle Busch for couple seasons now, and now Kyle is just not
struggling. But that's the thing with this format though, is all it takes is one race and it's turned around.
Oh sure, yeah.
I mean, he's not out of the playoffs. Of course, he doesn't have a playoff point this year.
No, hasn't done anything. He's been sneakily underperforming. But Denny's this is Denny and kind of putting up those Kyle Busch type numbers. He's just racking off wins. Him and Harvick are duking it out.
Yeah, it's an interesting season, and of course it's all going to come down to a track that both Denny and Harvick have done well at.
Yeah, and Kyle Busch, if Kyle can get turned around. Yeah.
Could be a fun race at Phoenix.
Yes, it could.
Let's see. We talked about the wreck with Blaney and Kyle. Fox missed the replay, but fortunately one of the NASCAR, which I don't know, James, I don't know if you've ever seen these guys, the NASCAR media people at the track, but the camera rigs they have are just awesome.
Yeah,
But to be able to capture that as well as they did a freaking spectacular job of it.
Well, I didn't know who to even put in the blame zone for that one because it was, I don't know if Kyle was holding up Blaney or what? But I feel like Blaney came careening in there from the looks of it. I don't know what you think.
It looked like Kyle got cleaned out a little bit there. I mean,
yeah, that's what I thought too. I felt like he got cleared out.
It's tough to say because you don't. I mean, like you said, you don't see it, but I don't know. Where they were in the turn, it doesn't feel like it was a Kyle Busch coming down thing. It seems like
it looked like Blaney hopped the curve or whatever.
Yeah.
He wasn't quite into the banking, and he kind of jumped up and bit him. Yeah.
And Kyle made his comment afterwards that he knew what happened, but doesn't make any sense in saying anything. So
yeah,
I don't know if he was trying to lead like there might be something else going on with Blaney, or if it was just a typical Kyle Busch.
They'll be fine when they get to the Brickyard.
Yeah.
Samantha Busch, hopefully she gets compensated for the crap that she's got to put up with right now. She's got to be like the highest paid psychiatrist in the world at this point.
Right. Let's see. That one, Kyle ends up 38th with the wreck. Christopher Bell had an accident as well, finishes 39th. This race is a little wilder. We had a couple wrecks. Let's see. Go ahead.
I was just saying, Kurt Busch led a bunch of laps. I thought he was going to be the guy to beat for early in the
he was kind of there and then just gone.
Yeah, and he just disappeared. Yep. And then I thought Eric Jones bounced back. I was wondering how it would go after he totaled that car in the first race. What his race would look like. Because a lot of these guys, like you said, Eric, they're running the same cars, same engines.
Right.
Eric Jones shows up with a new piece, and goes out and gets a third place. I didn't know if that was going to be an advantage for him or not. I wasn't sure, but yeah, I mean, sure looks like he benefited, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. It was, a lot of it was strategy too. So
yeah, I mean, you never know on those things.
Yeah, I know it's hard to say. It's just kind of one of those interesting trinkets with this doubleheader that we hadn't seen before. Some things that we, kind of run through your mind as you're watching the race and kind of wondering what's going on.
Right. I want to give a little shout out to, there's a guy on Twitter, Carson, who tweeted to me and Jeff Gluck, and I don't think Jeff answered, but I did. I'm not rubbing that into Jeff or anything. Jeff gets
I see what you did there.
Jeff gets a few more mentions than I do on Twitter, I'm sure. But asked about the 2-day show and whether they were going to swap cars out or how they were doing it with cars that had different paint schemes. So they actually showed it on Fox. This is what I guessed, is that they just wrapped a car twice. So you had your Sunday paint scheme underneath the Saturday paint scheme. And when Saturday was done, they peeled the Saturday paint scheme off, and underneath was the Sunday scheme. So one of those advantages of wrapping a car, I guess.
Huh.
I can watch those videos of them wrapping a car all day long. It is so fascinating to me.
I can't get one decal to stick on my truck.
I'm telling you, man. And they look beautiful. I mean, if you've ever gone up to these cars, they're not as pristine as they look on TV, but they're pretty darn close.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty.
Yeah.
So especially you go to a high speed track like Michigan or whatever that, or Daytona or Talladega, where they've got to be smooth, and they are smooth.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're crisp and clear.
The one that always fascinates me, and I don't see it in the Cup Series, but you go to like an ARCA race or something and go in the pits, and the tear-offs they put on the windshield, man, some of those guys do a crappy job putting those on. There's air bubbles and stuff underneath them. As a driver, I'd be so pissed. You could not drive with air bubbles under my tear-offs. You'd have to get those suckers out of there, find somebody else to do it for me.
I could see you like 12 laps in having a conniption.
I'd be so mad.
Yeah, that's great.
So mad. I get a scratch on my sunglasses, James. If it's in my eyesight, they're done. I'd throw them out. I won't wear them anymore.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I can't handle it. It bugs me.
I'm looking through a couple of speckles of dust on my glasses right now, so yeah, I'm sure that's not going to go over well with you.
No.
That's awesome.
No, drives me crazy. All right. Again, we mentioned Eric Almirola, 5th place on Sunday. Matt DiBenedetto gets 6th place on Sunday. It's a good run for him. Eric Jones, like you said, bounced back for a 3rd place finish on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, kind of what you'd expect, I think. The big names were up towards the top. And again, Denny and Kevin are the guys to watch right now. And we're going to a track that, very similar to Pocono, and a track they both perform well at. So it'd be fun to...
maybe one last thing was the Clint Boyer Alex Bowman race to the checkered.
Yes, that was great.
On Sunday, banging it out for 8th place.
That was good
awesome.
stuff. That was good stuff.
Yeah, Clint was giving it to him.
And I want to call back to stages and stuff too, because we saw some racing. I think Saturday there was a good race for like 10th at the end of a stage. And it's like you would have never seen that stuff without the stage points.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the diehard NASCAR fans, a lot of people who have quit watching, like to point to the stages as one of those reasons. Man, if you guys aren't giving these stages a chance, you're missing out, because they've really, really improved the midpoint of the race.
It's almost could become not noticeable to me at times.
Yeah, it's noticeable in the truck series when you got a 20 lap stage in at Pocono, but otherwise,
they're coming. It's one of those. It's just kind of blended itself into the sport. It was very much noticeable when it first came in, but now it's like double file restarts. It just is now,
right?
Which is nice.
I kind of like the short stages at the beginning of the Pocono race too. I think that played into things, made it interesting. I think that's what helped the fuel mileage story as well, the pit strategy. So give them some options. I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So what do we think, James? What do we think on the doubleheader format? Obviously, weather was an issue this weekend. We had delays for both Cup races. We lost the truck race. Got moved to Sunday. Ended up with a 3-race show on Sunday. First time that's ever happened. Obviously, not a perfect situation. We didn't have fans there. We didn't have practice like we normally would. Obviously, the weekend would have been a lot more packed full had we had all that. But from what we got, what would you grade it? What would you grade the doubleheader format? Is it something we should keep trying?
I think overall format, track, everything considered, I'd probably give it a B. Okay. I think I like the format. I'm not a fan of the track. That's probably the biggest thing. I don't know if we need to. I don't know if we need to race at Pocono more than twice.
See, I'm gonna say that I'm going to give it an A- for the same reason as you do, and it's because of the track. Because I thought it made Pocono compelling by doing it this way. I thought it made it more interesting. I like the fact that...
Yeah, you got a point there.
I like the fact that they had less experience on Saturday than they did on Sunday, that they were able to build on Sunday. I like the fact that we basically took one race and split it in half. And... I don't know. I liked it all around. I liked all the racing at the track over the weekend. As a fan, if I was there at the track, it would have been freaking awesome. I mean, I don't know about 3 races on Sunday, but
that's a record, by the way. That's never been done in NASCAR before.
Yep.
3 national series raced on one day.
I think one thing that NASCAR needs to look at, and the teams may disagree with this because it just could potentially make the day longer, but first of all, I feel like if you're going to have a Cup race, you should have lights at your track, period. But second of all, if you're going to host a doubleheader, you probably should have lights.
Probably.
Because
you have
lighting up Pocono would be really, really difficult. But
and you increase your chance for rain interrupting your event on a weekend when you've got 2 days to do it.
Well, 2 days packed full of racing.
Yeah, exactly. And there's not a lot of schedule room there. NASCAR was lucky that they were able to get it in what they got in. I mean, I can't believe they've got all that racing in. But kudos to them for getting it done. But
every lap and extras actually.
Yep. So. Yeah, I just my only gripe really, Eric, is I don't know if we need to race at Pocono more than twice. I don't know. I mean, it was fine. It was fine. I understand why we do it, but
I know I'm a big person of, you can certainly have too much of a good thing, but based on what I saw here, if we can if it gives us an excuse to cut races to 300 miles, I wouldn't mind seeing this 4 or 5 times during a season.
Oh yeah, there's tracks. I think absolutely. Like you can do Pocono, Michigan, Texas. I mean, heck, I would move Texas around and give it 2 and be done with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's places where you can get them in.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I think it definitely works well.
Another track I'd like for this is Richmond.
Yeah.
To give you a full short track doubleheader weekend. I mean,
that would be really cool. Yeah, Richmond would be a perfect track for this.
Yeah, it'd be a good spot for it.
Yeah, and even Richmond, you could do it like, running on a holiday weekend and do a Saturday night race and a Sunday afternoon race.
Right. Yeah.
Day and night, same cars. I mean, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's hard to like. I know there's people who would be like, yeah, do Indy and didn't do a road course and do the Oval or do Charlotte and the Roval. It's like that's really hard to do. Well, Charlotte may not be as bad because the teams are not too far from there, but that's pretty tough to do.
I'd be willing to say that okay, tracks. If you're going to have 2 races during a season, this is how you do it.
Yep.
Otherwise you get one.
You get one 400 miler, or maybe you can do 2 300 milers. I don't know, something like that. But
the only other way out of it is if you're like Charlotte and you have the Roval and you have 2 tracks at that specific track.
Exactly. Yeah. No. The doubleheader is good. It's here to stay, and I'm all for it. Like I like this, and it shortens up the. It kind of is a blend of what you and I both you and I are on opposite ends of the spectrum. I think I'd like less weekends overall throughout the year, but this also keeps the amount of racing.
Right.
So you get to keep your schedule at 36, and you shorten up the season a little bit, so you're not competing with the NFL towards your championship run too. So you got some flexibility built into your schedule,
and that's definitely some clarity for me on my position too. Is I don't necessarily think. I mean, I like the season being as long as it is because I like the fact that there's only 2 months out of the year I don't have racing, but I'm not against shortening the season lengthwise. I just don't want fewer races.
Right. And if you think about how this season was going to play out, this whole thing was designed for the Olympics. Like the NBC was going to have a 3-week break of the NASCAR schedule. And that's just, with COVID, everything has changed. But this gives NASCAR teams some flexibility, gives maybe, opens up the door for teams to have more time off the road, which I think they would be ecstatic about. And also it just builds in flexibility for the TV partners that they can do more with. They can have more valuable programming outside of NASCAR too.
Right.
So
if you can do 2 Vegas races in one weekend and not have to go across the country twice.
Yeah, exactly. And then, if you're like NBC and you want to run NASCAR parallel with, I don't know, say they've got Supercross that week, or say the NFL season's getting ready to start and you've got room in the schedule now where you don't have to, butt everything up against each other. You can actually flex things around, which is nice.
Yeah. What do we think? The rumors are still pretty strong that Michigan and Dover are going to be doubleheaders yet this season.
Yeah.
I think we both.
It'll work. Yep.
Especially, I mean, Dover concerns me a little bit because they don't have the camping that Michigan does. Michigan's going to work with camping if fans are allowed, which I'm not certain that they will be.
Yeah, not right. I don't think
it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's not great.
Gretschy's not really excited about letting a lot of people get together right now. And you know what? Michigan's lower than most of the other states right now, so I'm all right with that decision.
Yeah, we're hanging. Michigan is hanging in there, whereas other states are just seeing the bottom fall out a little bit. Michigan is actually we're teetering, but we're okay.
Yeah, it's nice to not be seeing the major spike right now. Yeah, there's spikes, but not major.
Yeah, but we're not going to. Gretsch, like you said, Gretsch ain't letting it happen.
No.
We ain't gonna see any crowds.
Nope. But again, I think it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to NASCAR announcing that schedule. Really curious to see. I assume we don't do two 400-mile races. I assume we go to 300-mile races for both days at Michigan.
Well, and if there's fans not there, NASCAR has the ultimate flexibility right now.
Yep.
They can do whatever the heck they want.
Yep.
So, and fans can't complain about it because you're not there in person.
Yep,
so
exactly.
Sorry, guys.
Blank check this season for NASCAR. So
yeah, this is the experimental season.
Yep.
Things that are happening right now are changing the future of the sport.
Yep.
Moving forward, it's gonna, this is all going to be different for everybody. So.
One thing I'll add to the news, which we didn't have in here, but both of us talked about it today off air. Eldora Speedway announces and World of Outlaws announced that the Kings Royal is postponed till next season. Eldora, pretty much writing on the wall, I assume, for the Truck Series race, the Dirt Derby at Eldora. Highly doubt that's going to happen there this year unless Ohio opens up and lets fans in. They've pretty much said that there's no way they can do that race without fans. And it's only a week and a half after the Kings Royal, so I would assume that shoe will drop very soon, probably around the time that NASCAR announces the rest of their schedule, which I assume will be very soon too, because we're only a month away from having to do that. And I'd be really surprised if we see much in the way of standalone races for for Trucks and Xfinity this year. I think.
Yeah, you brought up a great point when we were chatting before earlier today, and you mentioned it, and I hadn't even put 2 to 2 together on that, but you're right. I mean, any standalone Xfinity and truck races are just not going to happen.
Yep.
NASCAR's just waved the white flag.
Yeah. The sanctioning fee to get a NASCAR event at your track is high enough to where for Cup Series you get the TV money, but you don't get that for Xfinity and truck, and so you need the fan support to be able to pull those off financially. Even somebody like Tony Stewart, who you assume that Eldora just has all this money in the bank, they don't.
Not true. Yeah, they have a budget just like everybody else.
Yep. So
and if they're putting the Kings Royal on hold, for a year, I mean that's their biggest event.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's
Kings Royal. Well, I think the World 100.
Yeah.
I think is I don't know.
The World 100, the Dream's a big one, but
I think Kings Royal is the top. Yeah.
It's the Outlaws. I mean that's the biggest series that goes there. So.
Yeah. So it's probably not going to happen. My fear is that, I just hope that with them missing a year, that's all it is a year, and that we get it back the next year, because I'd hate to see that go away.
Yeah, it's in the same realm as like minor league sports. Like you worry that there's going to be some contraction with if you like minor league baseball or whatever. There's some fear out there that they're already going to be cutting some teams out, and with some baseball announced that they're canceling all minor league baseball for the year. So that's worrisome for that kind of thing. And I think this falls in line with that. We just kind of have to, if we can weather this storm for a year and hopefully have things back next year, we hopefully will be okay.
Yeah. And we're sitting here worrying about the race, but you got to worry about the tracks too. I know a lot of local tracks that are struggling because they can't open, or they can open, but they can only open at half capacity or less.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I worked at a local track for several years, and I know, how close they were scraping by to make that happen. And to have a season like this, it could really hurt some people that don't have, the rainy day fund ready to go. So, so tell you what, when you get a chance, go support your local racetrack so they can keep going.
And people wonder why sports like NASCAR or basketball or whatever, they wonder why these sports are even coming back. That's the reason why. It's the same thing. You have to go to work. It's if there's no revenue coming in, everybody takes the loss. And it's and for the little guys like your local short tracks or even your professional athletes that don't make the huge salaries,
right?
When you start taking huge chunks of a season, if a season's not going to happen, you start taking chunks of money away in future earnings. It's not, it's not pretty. So
yeah, I mean, some of these NFL stars and stuff, baseball stars, they might have to sell one of their private jets,
right? Or the owners, anyway. Yeah. I told my buddy today, I'm like, well, the owners are going to be fine. Like the sports owners are fine. It's but the players, I mean, they're rich, but they're not owner rich. That's
right.
For sure.
Well, and I'm joking about it, but you look at the NFL, you're talking your top few guys are that rich. The rest of them are not.
Right. Well, you sign if you're a guy who signs, let's just make it an even $1 million contract, right? You sign a $1 million contract, but you have to perform at with COVID, you get cut 60%, right?
Yep.
That's a big pay cut. Yeah. When you think about it. So, I mean, the tracks and these, that's all of sports, all of racing. They're all thinking the same thing. That's why Supercross wanted to get their season in. They have sponsors, live TV rights, and that's why ESPN's playing Korean baseball. They have to have live sports. It's part of the deal. So
there's a good 30 for 30 on the salary gap with the NFL. I think it was 30 for 30. I don't know. It's one of those documentaries. It's pretty good, worth watching.
Oh, there you go.
Anyway, let's talk some more news, James. Jimmy Johnson announced he's going to test for Chip Ganassi in IndyCar, July 8th, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I don't think any surprise here. This was.
No, he said he wants to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd be shocked if we don't see Jimmy Johnson in an IndyCar next year racing, right?
Yeah, he's going to race. He's going to race road courses next year.
At least one.
The big rumor we got to start talking about though is when Jimmy runs part time for Ganassi next year in the Cup Series. That's the big rumor. No, I'm just kidding. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows what Jimmy's doing? But
don't be Mark Martin, Jimmy.
Yeah, please. Just when he's done, he can be done.
Yeah.
No, don't. We don't need to tarnish the legacy of Jimmy. He's not going to. He's going to race whatever the heck he wants.
Right. Speaking of cancellations, NASCAR canceled the Champions Week in Nashville for 2020. Basically saying that it wouldn't be responsible to get a group of people together right now. I think that's the right choice. I think writing's on the wall on that one too, right?
But we're letting 30,000 people in at Bristol?
Yeah, supposedly. I will say that at least that is an outdoor event.
That is true.
I'm much more comfortable at outdoor events, although Bristol doesn't exactly circulate air. So
I don't know. That was my first thing I thought was you're letting 30,000 into Bristol, but you're canceling in the same state.
Yeah.
You're canceling the awards banquet.
Yeah.
I don't think that 30,000 thing's going to happen. I
don't think so either. I think we'll see an announcement.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a bummer. I for whoever wins the NASCAR championship this year, you'll have the cup. But it's that sucks.
Yeah, when you get to go on the Tonight Show and stuff, you're gonna have to do it through Zoom. That's a bummer.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Although these drivers are all getting pretty good at Zoom. Yeah. Or Skype or whatever. I think they use Skype a lot of times. No, that's right. It is Zoom. Post race press conferences, Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Bubba's got the national tour down, so if anybody needs any questions, they can, if they're going on USA Today or Good Morning America or whatever, Bubba's got it.
There you go.
He's made all the rounds.
Adam Stern tweets that Brad Keselowski has not received a contract extension offer from Team Penske as of late last week. However, people close to the deal think that they will eventually strike a deal. What do we think?
This is negotiation stuff. 101, baby.
Keselowski's going to stay.
You got to think if you're Brad, this is your last chance to make that long-term money.
Yeah.
Probably for his career.
Yeah.
Right? This is it.
Penske going to want him to take a big pay cut.
And Brad, rightfully so, should be fighting to get as much as he can.
Yep.
You can't fault Brad for that. How old is Brad now? He's not he's got to be only 35, right? Hold on. I can find out for you.
Hey Siri, how old is Brad Keselowski?
Oh, there you go. That's good.
Brad Keselowski is 36 years old.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So if he signs a 5-year deal, Eric, that puts him past his prime. So, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got to get he's probably looking for at least to get to his age 40 season, would think.
He's not going anywhere. He's staying with Penske.
We've gone back and forth on that, and I think you're right, but there was a time where we thought he was the 48 car replacement there. So who knows what's going on. He's got to explore all of his options though. Especially with this COVID thing, this is a bad time to be a free agent. I do feel bad for him. He's stumbled into a pretty crappy situation right now.
Yeah, definitely.
To be a champion in this sport and have, I understand that the sport has changed and drivers have to take reduced pay, but Brad Keselowski has as good of clout as anybody else.
So Brad stays at Penske. Denny wins a championship this year. He stays at Joe Gibbs. Who goes to the 48 car?
Corey LaJoie.
Do they?
I couldn't even say it without laughing. I'm sorry.
Okay. So here's one to throw out at you. If for some reason,
you know who I'd hire?
Who would you hire?
I'd go after Eric Jones right now. If I was Hendrick.
Yeah, that's probably the option for him.
Get him at a discount. He's a playoff caliber driver.
If you don't get someone like Denny, but let's say that doesn't work out. Let's say they re-sign. Levine stays in the picture. Chris Bell stays there. Could you see someone like Eric Almirola or Clint Boyer going over there if Larson comes in for Tony Stewart?
Maybe. I don't know.
Or is there somebody in the wings in the Xfinity series that they would bring up that's running for Junior Motorsports? I don't think you give Justin Allgaier another chance, do you? He hasn't performed in the.
No.
And Noah Gragson is too early for.
Yeah, Noah Gregson's too early. Yes,
Noah is like Natalie Decker with talent.
He's a dart without feathers.
Exactly.
He's the Tony Stewart. Remember the old Tony Stewart saying? Who'd he say that about? David Gilliland, dart with no feathers. Yeah.
No, seriously though, he's Natalie Decker, but he has talent.
Well, I'm sure they could take like Quinn Huff. You know?
Right.
You got to think Mr. Hendrick has got a plan.
You would think so.
That team, they've got to have a plan in place. This Larson thing, though, really screwed it all up.
Yeah, it did.
I think everybody had their plans kind of mapped, and when the Larson stuff went down, that was the end of that, and now it's completely different. So
yeah, I think it definitely upended things quite a bit.
But, if Rick Hendrick went out to Kyle Larson and that was his reclamation project, I mean, think of some of the characters that Hendrick has had dating way back to Tim Richmond. I mean, maybe.
Hey, I tell you what, if a guy's gonna get you money, if a guy's gonna win you races, you forgive, right?
You can get him on the cheap now. Yeah. He's not asking that same price that he had.
Who knows?
I still think Eric Jones is the wild card here right now, because it doesn't sound like I know Toyota said they want to keep him, but I don't know.
Well, Toyota can want to do what all they want to do, but Jones got to sign a contract.
Toyota's trying to also learn their lesson from the Larson incident, and the first time when Toyota had him and let him slide.
And if you think that Toyota making a public statement saying they want to keep Eric Jones is not a bargaining chip,
right?
That's part of the negotiations. They're not doing that just on a whim. They're doing that to let him know.
Yeah.
That's got to make you think that Jones is already looking a little bit. Jones should be like one of the highest sought after drivers right now. Now that Larson's not.
Yeah, he's got to be if Brad Keselowski's the top free agent, it's Jones right next to him.
Yeah, I would say they both have their plus over the other one. Keselowski you're getting at the end of his career. You're getting Jones. It's still at the beginning.
Well, who do you want? Do you want the growth potential of Jones, or do you want Brad Keselowski entering his peak?
What's Hendrick proven? What's he got right now?
He's all young.
Got a lot of growth.
But then, what do you think? I mean, don't they need a veteran driver in there? Then you can't have Chase Elliott be your grizzled veteran.
I don't know.
He's still a young buck.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, man.
Yeah, it is.
And Kyle Larson will not drive for Chevrolet. We should mention that before we sign off.
True, yeah.
Because Chevrolet made it a point that they didn't have to say that they were dropping him. It didn't need to be said, but they went out of their way to make sure that Ford and Toyota, if they did pick him up, would look bad.
Right.
So we got to watch that one. But
okay, lots to talk about there.
Stewart cares.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, be interesting. Be fun to watch. I think the silly season would have been a lot more entertaining without COVID, but it's interesting whenever you got the greatest driver ever leaving the sport. That's some big shoes to fill, and you assume it's not just going to go to anybody. So
yeah, well, it's like when Jeff Gordon stepped away, we had Chase Elliott right there.
Yep.
We kind of knew, but right now we don't know for Jimmy. We don't have a Chase Elliott.
No.
To step in. So that's interesting.
No, there's nobody in the wings at Junior Motorsports. You could always bring Hemrick back up at another chance in the Cup Series, but he didn't prove himself up there. He didn't have enough time to do it. But
to drive the 48,
I know, right? And like you said, Noah's a few years off.
Ready. Yeah.
And Michael Annett, Justin Allgaier, I don't think
they're
going
their
Cup.
chances.
Yeah.
No, they've had their chances.
Yeah, that's over. So. And Allgaier can't even get it done in the Xfinity Series. He runs but can't finish.
If there's no room at the end for Stewart Haas with Chase Briscoe. I know he's a Ford guy, but what do you do there? Maybe he goes to Penske. Maybe that's the move.
Yeah, that's true. Penske could definitely do something with him.
They've got Logano in place. They bring in Briscoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here we go.
So much fun. I'd love to see Brad go to the 48. I would really love to see it.
Yeah, he'd be good there.
But at the same time, I just feel like Brad's the Penske guy. I feel like he fits that organization really well.
As great of drivers as they've had over the years, he's the guy.
Brad's the blue collar guy, James. He's what Penske is.
Michigan. Yeah, I know.
I don't know. It feels really weird to have him out there, but
I know.
All right. See, you said this was going to be a short podcast. So
I know. That's what we always do. I know.
All right, we'll burn through this one pretty quick, and then we'll spend an hour on the next one.
I hope not.
So we went from a doubleheader this weekend. We get a doubleheader next weekend as well. This time it's the Xfinity Series and the IndyCar Series. Doubleheader on Saturday. No fans in Indianapolis, but we get to see some open wheel racing with stock car racing. First time ever.
Pretty cool.
I'm excited.
It's going to look neat. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting day for auto racing fans.
We get NBC Sports back this week. You get Rick Allen and Dale Jr.
Oh, yeah. Slide job.
Yeah.
Do it.
Hold on. I moved everything around.
Delay.
There it is.
Fantastic.
Between the delay and the fact that I moved all of my buttons.
Yes.
That's rough.
That was a great delay. That was like a 10-second delay.
It's awful. If you wouldn't have talked through it, I could have just cut it out in post. But you blew it.
I did.
I wouldn't, though, because I never, just for the record, you guys, I never edit this podcast. The only time is if we have a technical difficulty and we have to stop in the middle, which is very rare. Then I will edit it together sometimes. But we usually acknowledge it when we do it.
We better hurry up and finish this podcast because I think you cursed us.
I know, right?
Edit.
All right, so let's move on to the next one, James. I don't even know how to start it. So NASCAR. I'll go this way. I'm not even going to present it unbiased, James. NASCAR has gone a long ways in the past few months at denouncing racism and saying they're not going to stand for that. We had a Black Lives Matter car in the race at Martinsville. We had all the unity behind Bubba Wallace at Talladega when we thought there was a hate crime committed against him. We've had the support from Bubba, period. We have a NASCAR official, protesting essentially during the national anthem during the race. We have NASCAR removing the language in their crew chief handout that they can't, demonstrate during the national anthem. All this progress. We had Kyle Larson lose his job over a racist comment. And yet there's this organization that NASCAR has partnered with called Barstool Sports that continues to just exhibit despicable behavior online.
Bad behavior. Yep.
Bad behavior. There's stuff that surfaced this week about David Portnoy. Is that how you say his stupid name?
Yeah, Dave. Yeah, the Barstool president, David Portnoy. Yeah.
There was video surfaced about him being a racist or making racist comments, which was like the worst investigative journalism ever because, it wasn't real tough to find because the guy's an idiot. So I know, James, you feel really strongly on this. I might be stealing your thunder here, but
oh, you're fine, man. You go. You cook. I'm gonna let you cook.
Why in the hell is there still an association with this group at this time?
And we should let people know. And if you've listened to our podcast from day one, you've heard us talk about Barstool. And I feel like I was early on the I don't like this.
You were early. I wanted to give them a chance, but I was not familiar with Barstool prior to them getting involved with NASCAR, and I am not impressed so far.
Yeah, and NASCAR, for everybody who doesn't know this, NASCAR gives Barstool money. They give them money to cover our sport and bring in, quote unquote, younger demographic.
Bring in people we don't want in, apparently. The only solace I'll give, James, is I don't think that there's a lot of people. I know he's got his cronies, but I don't think there's a lot of people that are fans of Barstool that can stand Portnoy. Is there?
I don't know. He's got a pretty rabid fan base, the Stoolies, as they like to be called.
I kind of get the impression that most people know he's a freaking moron.
Yeah, a lot of people think he's playing a character a lot of the time. I don't necessarily agree. He's had some pretty stuff that they've had issues with women, and even recently they've had issues with women and things that they've done. And Dave, he tweeted a pretty, a short video trying to, he was being defiant. I cannot be canceled, that kind of thing. He's doing this whole thing. I have him muted on social media, but I watched that because I'm trying to, I don't know. I wish NASCAR would say something. And that's been my problem since this all came out, and I've tweeted about it. And if you're following us on Twitter, I'm sorry that if you're annoyed by my constant badgering of NASCAR to say something, but they told Jenna Fryer no comment on this. And for all the good that they've done over the last few weeks to do the right thing and say the right thing, and it's easy when it's a universal to do these things, but when I don't know, when it's a partner of yours and you're invested in them, that really goes to that speaks volumes to me on where they actually stand on some of the stuff.
Yeah, I want to be clear too that I've made my jokes about Jenna Fryer. She's not exactly the most liked journalist covering NASCAR. Jenna works for AP.
Fearless, dude.
Yeah, she knows that. She covers for AP. She covers for a general audience, not a NASCAR audience.
Yep.
So she is not in the inside circle like a lot of the NASCAR journalists are. So because of that, she's able to cover things that maybe the other reporters wouldn't touch, and that gets her a lot of ire from other NASCAR journalists. But as a journalist myself, I have to appreciate it. And mostly I joke about Jenna. I do appreciate what she does. I don't always agree with her opinions, but she is certainly waving the banner right now on this. But a lot of others have been really silent. And, James, you mentioned on Twitter today, we got guys like Bob Pockrass, Jeff Gluck, Jordan Bianchi. Where are these guys? Why are these guys not speaking out? Jeff has made comments about Barstool and questioned stuff about Barstool before, but they're all deadly silent on this thing. And if they're not, I apologize, because I'm on NASCAR Twitter. I've been on it a lot more in the last week or two than normal, but I have not seen much outrage other than from Fryer and a couple others. But where are these guys at? And I get it. NASCAR is a closed circle for one, and they hold all the keys. And right now, when they're only letting 10 journalists to the track to sit in the press box and you can't even talk to the drivers, I get that this is these guys' livelihood and they don't want to burn a bridge, but then you're not being a journalist.
Right.
As a journalist, you're supposed to question it. And if NASCAR bars you access, this is the problem with sports journalism, though.
Get the facts and present it, right, Eric? I mean, that's
right. I mean, this is the problem with sports journalism, and I'm a victim of this as well. As a journalist, you're not supposed to take handouts. You're supposed to buy your own ticket to the show you're reviewing. These guys aren't paying, other than hotel rooms. They're not paying to go to the race. Right. They get a free pass to the race. They get a free pass to the garage. I know, I've done it. They get fed at the race. They get treated like kings essentially during the race weekend. And it's not just NASCAR. It's all sports. You never go to a professional sport without a giant buffet. It's always free access. And that's what makes this whole journalism thing shaky when it comes to sports.
Yeah.
But these guys need to step up and question
follow
this
the money,
thing.
right, Eric? Isn't that it? I mean, that's where it's at. Follow the money, right? NASCAR is paying Barstool all this money, and Portnoy and Clint Boyer have a podcast that they do every week. I don't listen. I know it exists, but right. I mean, that's what's going on here. Is I don't want to. I'm having a hard time pointing the finger at the NASCAR journalism corps, because I respect those guys so much, but at the same time, but at the same time, you are 100% correct. Like, where are you guys right now when we need you the most? The people that we listen to the most. And we, like you said, Jenna draws the ire of people from time to time, but now, Jeff is well respected. Bob obviously is probably the most respected, but we've got some really, really great writers and they're really talented guys. And I just wish that I would have seen something from them. I'm not as disappointed in them as I am at NASCAR leadership.
100%, 100%.
That's where I'm really upset.
The journalists aren't in the wrong. NASCAR's in the wrong.
Right.
The thing with the journalist is that I'm not saying that Bob Pockrass should say, hey, NASCAR, I'm not covering you guys unless you guys get rid of Barstool. I'm saying that...
ask the question.
Yeah, exactly. Ask the question. And maybe they have. Maybe we just haven't seen it. Maybe they haven't reported it, but they should be reporting
exactly
it.
Right. Yeah. And maybe Jenna's the only one who put it on Twitter and said that NASCAR said no comment. At least... But, I give Jenna credit there. At least she said that.
Yeah. But no, I don't want to take anything away from the fact that NASCAR is the one that's wrong. NASCAR is the one that should take the action. NASCAR needs to end this relationship.
Stop writing checks to this guy.
Yep.
Stop, because NASCAR is putting, the figurative food on his table.
Yep.
Every time that they write a check to Barstool Sports, and it's not.
If this is the fan base we're bringing in, do we want them?
Yeah, and I don't want to lump in. I don't want to lump in everybody who follows Barstool as a racist. And Dave Portnoy, I am not gonna go out on the limb and say that he is a racist. That's not what I wanted to say. But I'm not saying you're a bad person if you like Barstool.
When there's evidence, though, that.
Yes, I know. I know. I'm not going to be the one. I just have a hard time pointing the finger and saying you're a racist.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
You're not a bad person if you like Barstool Sports. I just hope that you know what you're involved with.
Here's the thing. Kyle Larson lost his job.
Yes,
here we go. He potentially had his career ended. He was indefinitely suspended by NASCAR, and as far as we know, has not been reinstated. We don't know whether he's asked to be reinstated, but has not been reinstated because of one comment on a thing that wasn't even technically broadcast that was accidental. Not dismissing anything Kyle Larson did. He deserves what happened. Yes. But if he deserves what happened, then why are we associating with this group?
Yes, and I've retweeted the original. Eric and I are not going to go into what was said.
Yeah, no.
And no, it's just not. I mean, it's pretty. Yeah. It's just crude humor. Yeah, it's just crude humor is not even the right word. I mean, that's what Dave called it, but you can go to my Twitter and you can see the thread. That's all, go to my Twitter, see the thread at James Cush. There you go. You can see what he said, and he's got multiple offenses on there. And he called this comedy. He just called this comedy, and it's such a.
Well, the thing is, like, I'm a fan of comedy, and I don't get offended over comedy. The problem is that this is a repeat offender.
Yeah, and Kyle Larson, at the very least, came on the next day and apologized before he deleted all of his social media accounts. Right. Whether that's a hollow apology or not.
Has Portnoy apologized for anything ever?
He didn't say anything. No.
I mean, ever. I don't think I've ever seen him apologize for something.
I don't think he's ever said he's sorry. No, I don't think so. On anything. If he's not right, you're not right.
Right.
He's the end all be all.
We go on for hours. We won't.
We had to say something though. But I agree.
It's time for this to be over with. It's time for NASCAR to move on. I don't think we want to be associated with something like that right now.
Eric, and the sad thing is they're not going to.
No, I know.
They made their no comment, and all the goodwill they did with the Confederate flag and everything, the support of Bubba Wallace and all that stuff is, to me, I said it in Twitter, silence is deafening right now.
Yep.
We need to hear from Steve Phelps.
I agree.
We're just not hearing from him. Yeah.
Two more things that aren't in the notes that I wanted to mention. One, just while we're on this controversial subject, James, I know we discussed whether we were going to discuss this or not. I don't really want to have a big discussion on it. I just wanted to make a real quick point. A lot of people up in arms this week over the Trump decal that ran on Corey LaJoie's car at Pocono.
Yeah.
Who cares, guys? Come on.
I know. We are nitpicking at this point.
It's an election year. He is the president of the United States. He is a candidate for the election. As long as the campaign laws have been followed for how that sponsorship was placed, who cares?
And that team got $350,000 to run that. I don't know how long that decal is going to run, but I have no problem with them running that decal.
No, I don't have any problem with them running Trump's face on the front of the car like they run Corey LaJoie's.
I know Trump's controversial for many, many reasons, but
I mean, I would get a kick out of them running his face on the front of the car and having Corey LaJoie crash.
It is pretty. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I don't want to see Corey LaJoie crash. God, that could be twisted the wrong way.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, the comedy.
Maybe I should cut something out of the show. Jeez.
The comedy. No kidding. The comedy of that decal, though, Eric, was I think it was race 2 when they were lining up the grid, and there it was parked right behind Bubba Wallace.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy cow, we've got we've got both opposite ends of the spectrum. People are gonna freak out. And nobody did, really. Nobody said too much.
The guy has a right to sponsor a car just like any other sponsor has a right to sponsor a car.
And it wasn't even Trump that did it. It's a group supporting Donald Trump. So
but I mean,
it's not.
Obviously there were some people that were upset with him being at the Daytona 500, but most people seem to be okay with that. But we don't want to run a Trump decal on a car. Come on, guys.
I know. So it's weird. I know a lot has changed in the last few weeks, but you can't
I couldn't believe that was a topic of discussion.
I mean, I will tell you this though, Eric. When I saw it on the track the first time, I noticed. I was like, "Whoa, what's that?" I mean, it sticks out. I mean, that kind of thing does stick out.
Yeah.
I mean, they got their money's worth for that decal.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I just we can't be. Sorry, I don't want to. I know
okay.
we wanted to keep this short and sweet, but we can't be nitpicking every single little thing about stuff. I mean,
no,
it's
and
just ridiculous.
Okay, don't get me wrong. I don't have an issue with Barstool Sports being on Clint Boyer's car.
No,
that's fine. I just don't think NASCAR as an organization should be a part of Barstool Sports.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
So,
yep. That's great.
One other thing I wanted to hit on real quick that is very exciting. We haven't gotten an official announcement yet, but the big rumor is that we're going to get a choose cone at the All-Star race at Bristol.
Yeah.
So excited about that. Again, if you guys aren't familiar with the choose cone, basically they put a cone on the front stretch. I don't know if they'll actually have a cone for the NASCAR race, but when you come to the cone, you pick the inside or the outside. And so let's say Bristol, the place to be is the outside on the restart. The leader gets the lane choice as it is, but the second place guy doesn't have to go to the inside. He can go to the outside. And let's say the next 4 guys start on the outside. Well, the guy that's in 5th can be like, ooh, I could maybe gain some spots by going to the inside. So now he moves up to the inside lane, and it's really interesting. They do it at a lot of short tracks. I think it would be excellent for NASCAR. I hope they do it at the All-Star race, and I hope they decide it works. And they do it everywhere immediately following the All-Star race.
Yep. Yeah, I love the fact that you could be running 15th, and if everybody goes to the inside, you could end up on the outside of the front row.
Yep.
I mean, that's just really cool.
Yeah, how awesome is that to be able to take a risk then when you're back in the pack? It's no different than pitting with 2 to go in a stage when you're outside the top 10 and not going to get points to try and get a jump.
Yeah, if you've got a chance to, like Martinsville, for example, you could see the top 10 drivers bunching up to the inside, right?
Yep.
To get that much needed inside lane.
Yep.
But yeah, you can get somebody to jump up on the outside. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it. It's just another strategic thing. It's another thing for teams to decide. It's another thing to put, a little wrinkle in things. And you see things. I mean, we saw, I think it was Bristol. Jimmy Johnson kept getting stuck on the inside. He had a car that could have won the race and kept getting pushed back. And now he wouldn't have had to do that. He could start on the outside and maybe stay in position. But then have to race guys that he wouldn't have had to race otherwise because they moved up on the bottom. So I like it. I think it's great. I hope it happens. I hope we enact it for good and move on from this discussion.
Yes, for sure.
With that, James, we go to Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend. It is the Brickyard 400 on its officially scheduled weekend. This is the first race in a while, I think, that we're going to be in. No, Pocono was on the scheduled weekend too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Pocono was on the correct schedule. So anyway, last week we came out pretty even again. We picked basically one time for both races. I picked Ryan Blaney. James picked Kyle Busch, and both of us were finished ahead of the other one day, so we each got a point there. And
we have a dark horse. We have a dark horse controversy.
What's the dark? Because Matt DiBenedetto shouldn't be dark horse.
Yes,
I let it go. I let it go. I won't argue it.
Yes, I would like to though offer up that you can. If you are so inclined, I will. You may erase my 2 Matt DiBenedettos from the schedule from the tally. I will offer that up because I screwed up.
Yeah. No, I'm going to leave it there. We'll leave it there. We'll solve this in a second.
Yeah.
if that gives you an idea.
I did tell Todd because Todd brought this up and I was like, oh crap, Todd caught me. No, I did really screw up. Sometimes I play it. Sometimes I do like to play a character on here, but I really did screw that one up.
I knew you did it at that time and I let it go. So
I know I totally blew it. However, I did tell Todd on our message board. I said Eric got the first pick for 2 straight races. I'm allowed the Matt DiBenedetto pick. So I think we came out okay.
There you go. You're still not ahead of me, so I'm happy. James gets 2 points for Matt DiBenedetto. I picked Ty Dillon, and I got 0 points. So I lead 17-16 after 15 races. And we go to the Brickyard 400 this weekend. James gets the first pick. Who are you going with for the Brickyard?
Well, I think I have to take Kevin Harvick here.
Okay.
I like what I saw at Pocono, and if they can repeat that kind of speed on a track that has some similarities, it's not similar, but has some similarities, I like that. I like that 4 car.
This is tough. I am going to go. I'm just going to go based off this past week and logic, despite the fact that he doesn't have a win there, and I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin. This weekend.
Yeah,
I really want to pick Kyle Busch, but without practice and all that, I don't want to pick.
There's
Kyle.
stuff going on with that 18 car that spooks me a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, I would have liked Denny Hamlin here too. He needs a win here. He's and we should mention Kevin Harvick with that Pocono win, Eric. We didn't talk about that though. He's only got 2 tracks on the schedule now that he needs to win at.
Yes, that is true. True. He's only one behind Kyle.
Yeah, he needs a Kentucky win and a Roval win, and he's in. So he's in the club.
Yeah, he's got a couple of weeks, and he can try Kentucky. So
yeah, absolutely.
I get the first dark horse pick, so I'm just going to repeat from last week, and I'm going to take Matt DiBenedetto, and now you
get him now. Yeah, I'm good with that.
I can't spell his name right, but
Burrito. Okay, so for me, I was surprised how good Daniel Suarez is here. He's not my pick.
Yeah.
I don't like that 96 car, but
Suarez is really high in average finishes at a lot of tracks.
Yeah, but he's been with Gibbs and Haas, so
right.
it's just crazy that he's in a car that just can't perform now, which is a bummer.
Yeah, it is for him for sure.
Man, I don't know who to pick here. That's a tough one, Eric.
Would you like me to give you some advice?
No, I think I know who I want.
Okay.
I know the team that I want. I'm trying to pick the right driver that I want. You know what? I'm gonna take a little bit of a risk. No.
I have 2 options for you, and you're not gonna take either.
Go ahead. Let's go ahead. While I'm still looking, you can filibuster for me.
All right. So Chris Buescher has a win at Pocono. He also has a high average finish here.
He's not bad. He's on my list.
So Chris Buescher is a good pick, I think. The other one who's a really good pick, who ran really well here last year, I think it was last year, and almost had a chance to win this race, was Bubba Wallace.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Bubba's good at the Brickyard.
Oh, nice.
And you're not going to pick either of them.
I'm not going to pick either of them. No, I was looking at. So when I said I wanted a driver, I wasn't sure what team I wanted to pick them from. It was between Buescher and Preece.
Okay.
Give me Ryan Preece.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Ryan Preece. A little bit of a riskier pick. I probably should. I might regret that one, but
he ran well at Pocono though too, didn't he?
Yeah, he ran well at Pocono. He's run good at Indy in the past, so I'm going a little bit on a limb, but I like some of the stuff I've seen from him.
I think you can look pretty hard at Pocono and Indy and draw a lot of comparisons between the two. I know guys like Ernie Irvan used to be good at both tracks. I know Juan Pablo was really good at both tracks. So
yeah, yep.
There's a lot of translation. I mean,
good there.
Denny Hamlin's a good example. Even though he doesn't have a win at the Brickyard, he's got a good average finish there. So
yeah, for sure.
So there we go. There's our picks. Fantasy League. You got that up?
Upset. I am upset. Yeah.
That's right. You got screwed again, didn't you?
I did. Made my picks for the second race, and if NASCAR doesn't fix their app, I'm going to be really upset. My picks did not go through. So
how did I end up on the second race? Because I think I was second for a while.
Well, you did.
I was leading and then second.
I'll read the first. I'll just do the top 3 from the first race.
Okay.
You beat me. Justin 713, the KB Show, and then myself, Smoking Come Back. Top 3. Look at that. For Pocono Race 1, Pocono Race 2. This is the one where my picks did not go through. Denny the Many wins, and he had a big win, like 228. He had a lot of points. Ranger Runyon, and then Eric, you got another podium, dude. You had 199. So...
I was leading that one until I forget. Yep. Once Denny took the lead, I was done there. I bounced back to second and then third.
Yep. In the overall standings, I'll do the top 6. Okay. Freight Train, Ranger Runyon, Denny the Many, Justin 713, and then myself and Eric. So we're doing what we always do, Eric. We're in the back and we're right next to each other.
That's ridiculous.
Same thing every year.
So you picked the first day, but it didn't stick for the second day. How bad were your picks the second day then? Because they should have been pretty good from the day before.
Yeah, they weren't bad. I didn't have any of the bonuses to go through.
Oh, okay.
I could have had. So I lost out on points there. And yeah, the drivers weren't bad, but I had. Hold on. Oh, shoot, I closed it by accident. Dang it. But Chris Bell was on my roster, and he did not fare well. So that that didn't end up well for me. I was great for the first race. It worked out very well for me. He was in the top 5, and then I didn't have a very good day.
Because I didn't make much in the way of changes for the second race. I changed a little bit, but not much. I took Kyle Busch out, I think, essentially for the second race.
I had some of the same drivers, but I wasn't able to. Some of the other kind of the fixes that I had from watching, like I think Almirola might have been one of them from watching the first race. I think I had him in both races anyway, but I can't remember exactly. But I had a couple of quick changes, and then my picks, I had my bonuses might not have mattered, but I had Almirola in there, and then I had Hamlin for the win, and it didn't go through, so I lost out on the bonus points for that one. So I was pretty. That's why I usually wouldn't be super mad, but I was pretty ticked off.
Right.
I thought I had the winner picked, and I was all excited, and I'm an idiot. So there you go.
There you go. On it. All right, shout outs this week, James. What do you got?
I had one. How about you go first?
Okay,
I have one.
I will go first. I have to add the link in here, and I may be stealing yours. But James tipped me off that Ryan McGee has the oral history of Days of Thunder.
Yep, that was it. That was mine. We'll share it.
So good, man. You guys, if you didn't, it started out a little rocky. It wasn't maybe the easiest to read in the world, but damn, was it interesting. So good. I can't, and I tweeted at the PETM podcast. You can say all you want about Days of Thunder. It's not the greatest movie ever, but man, that movie has a special place in my heart.
It means something to a lot of people, man.
I think the Days of Thunder might be one of the major reasons that I like Kyle Busch as much as I do, because the fact that he's associated so much with that movie and become rowdy.
I like NASCAR for me.
Yeah. Oh, I lived and breathed this movie for years.
Yes.
I remember when they filmed it. I remember them. I remember the Daytona 500 where they were talking about the cars in the field. I remember going to the theater and seeing this movie.
That's a great tidbit in that oral history, by the way.
Yeah.
With Rick Mast thinking that he had a car that could win, and Bill Jr. telling him no way.
Well, there was a race in, I think it was Phoenix.
Yeah, there was a Phoenix race. He was leading.
Yeah.
Who was driving the 46?
Bobby Hamilton, and they took the cameras off the car and let him race.
Yeah, he was running, dude. He was just leading laps. And that City Chevrolet, for people who don't know, like that was an actual car in the Busch Grand National Series. They ran some races with that scheme.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I stumbled across that not too long ago. I should try to find that. But
City Chevrolet is Rick Hendrick's dealership.
Yep.
And was on the car because that was kind of his payment for supplying the cars or one of his payments for supplying the cars for the movie. So
to know how much carnage went through that shop at that time, it is just phenomenal. I mean, that's just what a great piece of work by Ryan McGee. He never disappoints us, but man, what a great read. I mean, that was just go read it.
The other one that I wanted to mention is every week after the race, Jeff Gluck on The Athletic does a top 5 or a 5 points column, 5 takeaways from the weekend. And I don't read it every week, but I read it quite a bit, and this week's was really good. So again, The Athletic, go support those guys, Jordan and Jeff over there. Subscribe to The Athletic if you haven't. If you're a sports fan, they do some good sports journalism. There's a lot of stuff on there that's not traditional. Jeff struggled with that a little bit because he's not just doing race recaps. He's actually got to, do some different things. They want stuff that's different from what everybody else has. But that's what makes it valuable. That's what makes it worth paying for, is you're not getting the same stuff that you get from, Yahoo Sports or Google Sports or wherever the heck you're getting your sports news from. So definitely check out The Athletic if you haven't. And there you go.
Very good. Yeah.
Anything else for you, James? Did you find something else or no?
Nope, that was it. I wanted to talk about this other thing. So when you brought it up, that was it. That was what I wanted. So
there you go.
It was fantastic. And for those scrolling through the feed, you can find our Days of Thunder podcast from our early days.
Yes.
It's probably really bad to listen to, but we did do it.
That's not any different than the current ones.
That's right. That's right. You're right.
Yeah. It doesn't get better than this, folks.
That's right. Yes.
Sorry. This is what you got. If you're gonna search around trying to find a better one, there's no such thing. So
well,
I mean, there's just other people's podcasts, not ours.
Yeah. Lots of people making noise. Yeah.
Yeah. With that, James, how can they find you on social media if they want to reach out to you during the week?
Yeah, at James Cush on Twitter. That's me.
You can find me at TSuperSpeedway on Twitter. I got a retweet from Dave Moody today.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Was that today or yesterday? Now I don't even
know. It was today. He
That's
texted me about it.
That's right. So
Dave took a hard stand on racing in the rain.
Yeah. So listen, guys, the people that want us to race in the rain. Racing in the rain sucks. All right. That's all I'll say. It sucks. And I agreed with Dave, and Dave retweeted me. So there you go. You don't want to sit in the stands in the rain. You just don't. It's terrible. It's miserable. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. Our website is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcast on there. Show notes that have links to the articles we discussed. Past coverage, past interviews, past race photos, all kinds of stuff on there at thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and SoundCloud. And wherever you found us today, we hope you subscribe and continue to listen. And if you want to help out the show, help us get to the track someday when we're allowed back at the track again, you can become a patron at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. We go to the Brickyard 400 this weekend, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I don't know what the actual title of the race is because I'm sure there's about 17 sponsors listed in it.
Hand sanitizer or something. Yeah, I'm not doing it. It's the Brickyard. It's the Brickyard 400.
Yeah. Brickyard 400 this weekend. We got the Xfinity cars on the road course with the Indy cars on Saturday. Going to be a great weekend of racing. Hopefully the weather stays away. Finally, it would be really nice. But it's July in Indianapolis, so pretty much can expect some thunderstorms. With that, we'll be back next week to discuss more, talk about whatever race is coming up next, and we're lost in the schedule. It's just there's another race next weekend, so we'll talk about it. We'll preview it. We'll be back next week to discuss it, and until then, everybody, let's go racing.